Welcome back to the YouTube today's video. You're going to have a bit of a late July, early August look ahead today. We've got some seasonal models come in that run to the monthly period. We're going to have a look at some of them, see how long this high pressure can go on for that we're currently in, whether there's any sign of it breaking down or whether it's going to continue on into the start of August. If it does, it'll continue to bring very warm, if not hot and dry, sunny, summery conditions. Before I get on with the video, I want to talk about the advertising. There's green keyword ads on my pages at gazwebviz.com. If you click through those green words, you go to the advertised website, you'll be supporting gazwebviz.com by doing that. So you're going to start off with the temperatures for the next 5 or 6 days. Got some really high temperatures coming up today. Funnily enough, the temperatures today are going to be up there a peak across northern England. Quite unusual that to see the highest temperatures centred around northern and north-east England, but that's where the peak is going to be today. Further south, we are going to be very warm. We're going to be up to the low 20s Celsius, I should say the mid to upper 20s Celsius, but around northern England, some parts of Yorkshire, perhaps we could get up to 30 degrees or maybe a little bit more. That's into the mid 80s Fahrenheit. It's going to be a very warm day wherever you are, but particularly hot across northern England. The heat tomorrow is a little bit further south, so it's through the Midlands in towards central southern England. That's where the peak of the temperatures are going to be. Could at the outside get up to 32 degrees somewhere, say around London, 32 being 90 Fahrenheit, but we're going to be around 30, 31, 86 to 88 Fahrenheit for quite a few places through the course of tomorrow afternoon. Notice temperatures have slipped back a little bit across north-east England where the peak of the temperatures are today. Moving through into Sunday, it remains very warm, not quite as warm. Temperatures do edge down by a degree or two from Saturday to Sunday, but still very warm, if not hot, into the upper 20s Celsius, into the 80s Fahrenheit. And really that continues on into next week then, with temperatures around the low to mid-20s in the north, around the mid to upper 20s, maybe at the outside the low 30s in the south. So again, we're around the mid to upper 80s Fahrenheit into next week, and that goes on into Tuesday as well. And as going into the middle of next week, well, the high pressure is just continuing. It'll be bringing more very warm weather into the middle of next week and that big area of high pressure. So is there any sign of this high pressure breaking down? Well, we're going to have a look at the 500 millibar height anomalies from the Beijing Climate Centre. And first of all, we're going to have a look at the first 10-day period. These are broke down into 10-day periods. So this first 500 millibar height anomaly takes us from the 11th to the 20th of July. So through the next week to 10 days, really. And we're seeing a big area of above average heights extending in across the Atlantic, through the British Isles. There it is, extending through the Atlantic in towards central parts of Europe over there as well. Below pressure, but below average heights kept away up to the north. So certainly for the next week to 10 days, and this looks very good on the charts that we're seeing at the moment, the generic charts of the GFS and the ECM, we're going to keep high pressure dominating through the next week to 10 days with a lot of dry weather and very warm conditions as well. Now as we go out towards the second 10-day period, which takes us from the 21st to the 30th of July, well, the idea is that still high pressure above average heights will be persisting into that final 10 days of the month. Maybe lowering a little bit the heights there, but really we're keeping above average heights going, perhaps not quite as settled for the final 10 days of July. But it's largely high pressure still dominating, and the below average heights below pressure being kept well away to the north. That's where the low pressure is going to be. So really not much sign of a change there for the final 10 days of July, to be honest. Although the heights may lower a little bit, high pressure may ease off a little bit, really. We're keeping a lot of settled weather going to the end of the month. Then into the first 10 days of August. This is taking us from the 31st of July to the 1st to the 9th of August. Or really from the 9th to the 10th of August. We're lowering the heights again somewhat. We're down to near normal heights then across the British Isles and into Central Europe as well. So I think the idea there is that maybe the heights are easing off just a little bit. We might bring somewhat more unsettled conditions through across the country for the first 10 days of August, maybe lowering the temperatures back a little bit as well, although to be honest there's still not much sign of low pressure breaking through there. So I think the Beijing Climate Centre is keeping it largely settled actually for the foreseeable future. Now, if we have a look at the JMA model, this is a long-range model from Japan, again, 500 millibar heights, and this is just updated this morning. It's taking us, the first week is taking us from the 11th to the 18th of July. There's the British Isles there, it's upside down actually, but that is the British Isles, and we're under a vast and very extensive area of above average heights at 500 millibars. So again, the idea is that for the next week we are going to be under high pressure conditions, and that's pretty good. All the models are in agreement about that. Now, as we move through to the second week of the forecast period, which is taking us into the final week of July, well, look at that. We keep the above average heights going there across British Isles. The colours still very extensive, very deep colours, oranges and reds, indicating a big and vast area of above average heights, high pressure sitting across the country as we go through to the final week of July. So both the Beijing Climate Centre and the JMA are in agreement that the high pressure will extend out at least to the final week of the month. And then as we go through to the third and fourth weeks, which is taking us more or less into the start of August, and we're seeing that then the heights are lowering quite a lot across the country actually. We do find that the high pressure, the above average heights, is slinking off up towards Scandinavia with that yellow area there. We're near normal in terms of the heights actually, but that's quite a big reduction there. Going on from the end of July into the start of August, and the below average heights are coming in towards the south. That's where the low pressure could be. Maybe signs that that'll be pushing up towards us as we go up into the first week or so of August. So I think really we are looking at high pressure persisting for much of the rest of July, maybe easing off later on in the final week of July, but through to the first week of August I think we could see it turning a little bit more unsettled. And if you have a look at the CFS, finally, this is from weatherweb.net, and these are precipitation anomalies for weekly periods. This is the first week ending at the 18th of July. Again, we see a lot of dry weather coming up for the coming week. So this is the coming week essentially. Yeah, we see high pressure really dominating away from northern Scotland. Lots of high pressure in there across the British Isles and across much of northern and western Europe as well, and that's, as I say, it's pretty good. All the models are in agreement about that. As we go through to the next week, which takes us from the 18th to the 25th of July, so we're into that final week of July period, and still the idea is there that the high pressure is dominating there across the country away from northern Scotland. Lots of dry weather on this precipitation anomaly. It really will be very settled and potentially very warm weather persisting indeed. excuse me. Then as we get through to that the final sort of 5 or so days of July and into August, this is the week ending at the 3rd of August actually, then we start to bring the low pressure through. It doesn't become desperately wet, but it does become a lot wetter, and the high pressure then is being pushed off towards France, to the south of the country and going up to the north, and we're starting then to bring low pressure through, and the jet stream presumably is starting to establish and pushing through here in towards the start of August. So definitely signs there, but as we go through to the final few days of July into the start of August, we begin to re-establish the westerlies, and then we go through to the 8th of August, so we go through the first week of August, and the idea then very much that we're starting to bring low pressure in across the country from the Atlantic. We do start to introduce some rain across the country, some quite wet weather actually across northern and western Scotland and down into Northern Ireland, but all areas turning more unsettled through the first week of August on this. Pressure the southwest of the country and again sitting up to the north. So I think the idea is certainly that for the next couple of weeks we're going to keep a lot of anticyclonic influences going. It's going to remain really warm, very dry, a continuation of what we've had so far through the month actually. But as we go towards the very end of July and then going on into the start of August, the signs are there, but it'll turn a little bit more unsettled. Now, how unsettled this is going to get, I'm not particularly confident about it. I would suspect actually that the CFS is overdoing that, and it'll be more like the idea from the Beijing Climate Centre and from the JMA, which is that it turns perhaps gently unsettled would be a better way of describing it, with some showery rain coming through on very weak weather systems, very weak fronts, but not really coming through with conviction, not really getting very unsettled at the start of August, but just a little bit more unsettled than much of July. That's it for now, all very speculative, and we'll be back to proper forecasting tomorrow with the weekend forecast, but that's it for now. Thanks for watching.